welcome to Space
Erased,
the NASA Fraudcast. I'm your host, Chris.
and I'm Rachel.
And welcome, everybody. This is episode 110. This is going to be part 2 of our PSYOP mini-series here. This should be a pretty good one. How you doing tonight, Rachel?
I'm pretty lucky to be here. I went through a car accident, flipped my car on the freeway.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying that.
Yeah, unfortunately, folks, we've been kind of delayed here on our production schedule, and reason being, we damn near lost our co-host over here. Rachel's really, honestly, not to bring it down, but she's lucky to be alive, and I mean, we're going to put up the picture of the accident.
I have a newfound appreciation for life.
That's right.
I'm super lucky, super fortunate, and luckily there was a witness, too, that backed up my side of the story because someone basically just ran me off the road. And
yeah, that I'm not sure if it's somebody intentionally doing that. I don't know. A lot of weird stuff has been happening to us lately.
Yeah, it was about to hit me, so I just swerved left, ran into the 2 feet concrete wall on the freeway and flipped it. But no scratches. Pretty much came out of it unscathed. So
nice. Matt and I, my other co-host Matt, you guys might remember him from some of the older episodes of the show. He and I have both been tailed in our vehicles and other things like that. Strange things happen when you deal in the subject matter, and that's honestly no joke. I want to say no, everything's fine and whatever, but all of a sudden you'll start noticing a weird series of coincidental moments like that. It can be very odd. Oh, by the way, we've got a new co-host here. She's standing in for the evening here. You want to make your debut here?
Piper.
This is Piper. Hey, everybody. She's our secret weapon for YouTube here.
She's brushing up on her conspiracies.
That's right. She's she's our co-host in training here. All right, folks. Let's hop straight into the news. All right, today's news segment is a slightly bit of unfortunate news here. As of February 4th, 2016 here, a famous astronaut, Edgar Mitchell, actually passed away at the age of 85 in West Palm Beach, Florida. I don't know if he actually passed away at his residence, but I know he lived in Florida there. So some notable facts about Mr. Edgar Mitchell. He was on Apollo 14. He spent over 9 hours collecting rocks, taking measurements, and actually hitting, he was the guy hitting some golf balls there on the moon, if you remember that shot there. He was one of 12 men who walked on the moon. He was the actual 6th man to walk on the moon, and he spent a total of 33 hours on the moon. Or in a studio.
So they say.
Here's a nice little quote from the NASA administrator, Charles Bolden. He said, "On behalf of the entire NASA family, I would like to express my condolences to the friends and family of NASA astronaut Edgar Mitchell. He believed in exploration, having been drawn to NASA by President Kennedy's call to send humans to the moon. He is one of the pioneers in space exploration on whose shoulders we now stand." So some very nice words there shared for Mr. Edgar Mitchell. I know it's not cool to speak ill of the dead, but I was talking shit about this guy before he passed away, and I'm sorry to sound callous. That sounds terrible, but here's the deal. I don't think any of these guys ever walked on the moon. I don't think they thought they walked on the moon. So I think this is all part of a big fraud. We've been talking about Edgar Mitchell and the like. He may not have been a bad man. He might have been tied up in this, maybe against his will or what have you. But he was military trained. He knew how to keep a secret, and he was implicated in the hoax. Here's the interesting bit. He actually died on the eve of the 45th anniversary of his particular lunar landing. That was the Apollo 14 landing in February 5th, 1971. So he ended up dying on February 4th, 2016, rather, and then that's 45 years almost exactly to the day of his Apollo 14 landing.
I think he knows that he didn't really accomplish that mission, so he died the day before in shame.
You think it's a shame thing? I mean, either that or he was trying to hold off until that day, or I don't know. I mean, it's all conjecture, I guess, but
yeah. Here's
the bit that I have. This is where he and I kind of part ways. I used to do a program called UFO to Go with another gentleman, and it was a a program, a YouTube kind of show for investigating alien cases and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. We ditched it because I ended up finding out pretty good evidence that suggests that the NWO pretty much created the idea of an alien invasion to scare the crap out of people, i.e. 9/11 or something like that.
And they probably used Orson Welles' War of the Worlds as almost a test
like
to see how it would go. Yeah, because they reported it as a news bulletin, but it was actually Orson Welles reading his story.
So, scare the crap out of people and make them think that there's aliens. This show began basically once we figured out that NASA was created to convince people space travel is possible, and then get that idea of aliens and I don't know. Anyway, so here's the problem that I have with Mitchell. He spent the later years of his life, basically the whole time after he got back from the moon, he gained credibility as being a lunar astronaut. The farmers and things from his hometown in New Mexico ended up, I guess, knowing a bunch about this Roswell UFO crash. So they thought he was the guy to tell, and he would be able to keep the secret and all that stuff. I don't know.
I like how he gains credibility for something that I don't believe ever happened.
Well, everybody else does. Talk to your parents or anybody, anybody from that generation or above absolutely believes it's God's word that we landed on the moon.
But they haven't done any critical thinking. They just believe what they've been told. And,
yeah, I know we landed on the moon. I saw it on TV.
With 100% evidence. I don't know, but I'm fairly certain that it never happened.
Nah, I don't think it did. I think there's
too much evidence against it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the people that don't believe we landed, or the people that believe we landed on the moon, have not ever looked at the evidence against it. So
yeah, just like 9/11.
Because the second I watched the first second on hoax or moon landing stuff, I was like, yeah, this is totally what happened. So he spent his later years talking about the Roswell UFO crash. He was telling other people's stories. He never experienced it himself. The other part I had a problem with is he was part of that fraudster Stephen Greer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He did a big public press conference or White House press conference or whatever it's called, and brought a bunch of military officials up, and they all testified, or they said they'd be willing to testify in front of Congress that they have seen UFOs or da-da-da-da-da. So these guys are all from different military positions, and that's supposed to be oh, well, look at all these super credible individuals. They've seen UFOs, and it's time, America, or Obama, I think it was who they were trying to get to talk about, release the information. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not there, assholes. So you're wasting your time. Anyway, so that's kind of where me and Edgar Mitchell part ways, that and the fact that it's just, it's a hoax to begin with. So I think that's about all the time we got for Ed. Let's move into the next segment of the program here. So,
all right.
So this is the PSYOP Part 2 episode. We decided we're going to go with a little bit of history here, with an older PSYOP, because we promised to do some examples this time of actual PSYOPs. So Rachel's actually done a nice little bit of research on women's lib, which, interestingly enough, and I'll let her explain,
definitely a PSYOP.
Definitely a PSYOP.
And I'm sure that there's plenty of PSYOPs that we can choose from, and I'm excited to kind of research more of them. This series could go on
for a long time, for sure, yeah.
Absolutely. And so this article, the link to this will be found on our, what is it?
Oh, that'll be in the comments section of the video here.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool. So I'd like to point out that I'm quoting verbatim from an article by Henry Makow.
Okay.
Makow, which I found on rents.com.
He's a doctor too, isn't he?
And yes, he isn't just some guy off the street. He has a PhD.
Some guy.
And this article is entitled Gloria Steinem - How the CIA Used Feminism to Destabilize Society. And it's very detailed, and I was very impressed by this, and that's why I'm pretty much quoting it verbatim, like I said. So we have to give credit where credit is due. But he begins the article saying, in the 1960s, the elite media invented second-wave feminism as part of the elite agenda to dismantle civilization and create a new world order. And I'd like to point out, too, that the title of the article, Gloria Steinem, she was the main force behind the feminist movement. And
Yeah,
it's funny because
still hear her name mentioned. I heard it on Fox News today.
that's what I was
Hannity.
just going to say. I had heard the name but wasn't familiar with her until, the other night when I was researching it and learning all about her. But then, you'll hear a fact, something or someone you've never heard of before, and then as soon as you hear that, the next day you'll hear it again, and it's everywhere. And this morning I saw Gloria Steinem in a quote that was controversial about women. I guess she's supporting Hillary Clinton's campaign, though.
I think anytime feminism becomes an issue in the Hillary Clinton campaign, she's referenced. I don't know when she was. I don't know if she's still alive. Is she? I don't know. Actually, let me research that now here in the background. Was it Gloria Steinem?
Yeah, because I believe she said the quote. Yeah, go ahead and look at that.
All right, go ahead.
So, George Macau goes on to say, since writing these words last week, I have discovered that before she became a feminist leader, Gloria Steinem worked for the CIA, spying on Marxist students in Europe and disrupting their meetings. She became a media darling due to her CIA connections. Ms. Magazine, which she edited for many years, was indirectly funded by the CIA. She's tried to suppress this info that was uncovered by a radical feminist group called the Red Stockings in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah. By the way, she's still totally alive. She's 81 years old.
Because I'm pretty sure she said something in support of Hillary Clinton, or she said something about women, I believe.
Must have.
Fun fact, she dated Henry Kissinger, another evil dude. Our main misconception, he says, about the CIA is that it serves U.S. interests. In fact, it has always been the instrument of a dynastic international banking and oil elite.
Surprise,
and
surprise.
I love how he says that. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Morgans, coordinated by the Royal Institute for Internal Affairs in London and their U.S. branch, the Council for Foreign Relations. It was established and peopled by blue bloods from the New York banking establishment and graduates of Yale's secret pagan Skull and Bone Society. Our current president, his father and grandfather fit this profile. Obviously, he wrote the article during George Bush Jr., his presidency. The agenda of this international cabal is to degrade the institutions and values of the United States in order to integrate it into a global state that it will direct through the United Nations. The CIA is prohibited from engaging in domestic activities. However, this has never stopped it from waging a psychological war on the American people.
Yeah. Well, I've got, by the way, I stole your notes here, so there's a little bit more information for you.
Okay, great. And?
Well, actually, okay, so this is the interesting bit. While she was doing the research on this, like, you and I have talked about this before just in passing, but, like, I think, I've always thought women's lib was kind of like, I mean, I've heard from Aaron Russo. He was the guy that I basically heard. He said, like, we brought about women's lib, not to give women freedom. It was a way roundabout way to basically get women in the workforce and tax the other half of the population that we weren't getting money from.
Yes,
and then it gets more sinister from there. Yeah,
and to remove them from the household and to separate mothers from their children and basically put the children in the government's hands,
which is hilarious because I've been called a misogynist for saying that, like, women's rights were not necessarily the best thing in the world, which sounds awful in face value, but really it broke up the family unit and it made children get raised by the state. And
don't worry, Chris's mom was, a bra-burning feminist.
My mom is a super successful business lady, retired now. But I joke all the time. I call her a bra-burning feminist, and she absolutely was. And if I ever said that, what my current thoughts are to her, based off of this PSYOP information here, she'd have my she'd have my head, man.
So I think also the purpose of this women's lib PSYOP was to alter American values and create division between men and women.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, the ultimate goal is always to instate the New World Order, one global government.
See, now this is how you get the next generation, like programmed to accept the New World Order, because you've dropped them at a very young age into the education system, and then they can get indoctrinated from preschool, age 5 all the way on up, and now you got like Bernie Sanders and all these guys out there saying like, college should be the new high school, basically, like everybody should go to, which would basically extend the indoctrination period by about another 2 to 4 years. So if you haven't been completely brainwashed in that time period, good for you.
All right, so I'll finish the article. He says, the CIA's Project Mockingbird involved the direct infiltration of the corporate media, which included direct takeover of major news outlets. The CIA distributed LSD to Timothy Leary and other opinion makers in the 60s.
Dude, that shit blows my mind. I mean, I've always heard about the Timothy Leary LSD connection, but to know that the CIA was the one that gave it to him?
Fascinating
That's
article.
crazy.
This guy has a PhD, people. Keep that in mind. So, all of the CIA's acts have this in common. They demoralized, alienated, and divided Americans. The elite operates by fostering division and conflict in the world, so we don't realize who the real enemy is. For the same reason, the CIA and elite foundations also fund the diversity and multicultural movements.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure all these things, and in fact, that would probably be good fodder for future episodes here.
So this PSYOP's main goal is to tax the other half of the population, have the kids indoctrinated by the education system, and paving the way for the New World Order.
Here's another point I'd like to squeeze in real quick. It's also about the attack on the American male. You notice how now, and we talked about the Bruce Jenner thing on the last, or Caitlyn Jenner thing on the last episode, but now we're feminizing the male, and now we're turning it straight into a transvestite. But it's all about, it's reassigning gender roles and all this stuff, but it just weakens all the American values that post-World War II, that's perfect America, in my opinion. You had strong families, you had strong values. I mean, regardless where you're at with religion or maybe Christianity, times were a lot better. People were more honest. You could shake somebody's hand, and that was good enough for a deal back in the day.
Talk to your neighbors instead of just shunning them and shutting the garage door and going inside.
How many of you talk to your neighbors, honestly? I look down my street and everybody just pulls their car in their garage and just shuts the door. I'm just like, whoa.
I don't know, you guys.
I thought I was going to get a pie or something when I moved into my new house. Not happening.
And my mom is still old-fashioned like that. She'll bake brownies or bread and bring them to the neighbors. I think that is great. And not to sound like, I don't know, but I think there was something really sweet about how the women stayed at home and cooked meals for, the family, and they all ate at the dinner table and stuff like that. Not to say that, women can't, climb the corporate ladder and all that. I've seen, your mom and all kinds of women accomplish that.
I firmly believe that women absolutely are equal in the workplace, maybe on non-manual labor jobs, but then you can't make a blatant statement like that either. But I like Donald Trump. He said, hey, does she work as hard as the guy? Give her the same amount of money.
But they didn't. Their intention wasn't, really to give more freedom to women or give them more money and stuff like that. The intention of this was ultimately sinister because it's trying to break apart the fabric of the family, and and like you said, gender roles, and last year was basically the year for transsexual, with Caitlyn Jenner and everything.
Yep. Well, I think it first of all, this has been in the makings for a long time. So this is probably way before World War II, I would imagine. And they had to have had a sit-down meeting if it was the Jekyll Island bankers or whoever, the powers that be, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. They had to have had a moment where they sat down and said, okay, well, how do we take this solid American people with good values and everything else and flip it upside down? You can't do it right away. It's a real slow frog in the boiling water kind of situation. And I think if you really take a moment and look back now, you can see it with brand new eyes and be like, oh God, man, every single generation, every 10 years, we take a big chunk out of the family somehow.
people just don't think about it because they don't think that there are hands behind everything you see, and there are hands that run the world, and they just don't critically think. And
well, yeah, Rachel and I were talking about that last night as well. They're like if you went and just talked to any member of the government, they're going to say, come on, man, you're full of crap, this is absolute garbage. The government in and of itself, I'm sure, works the way we're told it does, but there is a silent guiding hand behind all of it that can manipulate it if it wants to, and it certainly is by the sounds and looks of it. There's plenty of evidence that seems like the government's being shifted to do a certain job.
And I'm sure that there are plenty of people that aren't even aware of Jekyll Island or Plum Island.
That's good fodder for another episode.
It is about. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, basically the bankers snuck out in the middle of the night under different names and all this stuff, and they wrote the Federal Reserve Act, which created the Federal Reserve and took the power of money creation out of the American government's hands and put it in the hands of a private entity that was controlled by a small group of people.
Yeah, and I'm sure that our viewers are more keen on, what the Federal Reserve actually is, but a lot of people would just have their minds blown to know that it's not like the government or anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a small group
ask just like a random person on the street, hey, where's money come from? I don't know, the government prints it. Bullshit. No, that's not the case. But I don't know. I don't want to talk down to our fan base here, or not fan, but our viewers. I don't want to.
No, well, they probably
have
know.
Fans yet? Come on.
I'm sure they're aware of that. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, these are really smart people, and by the time they reach our show, I think we made that comment before. It's like, you guys know what's up. You wouldn't be here looking at flat Earth stuff unless you'd already gone through the 9/11 and everything else. We are far down the rabbit hole by the time you reach Space Erased. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Well, actually, you know what?
You needed to, to discuss the problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah. Well,
that's very interesting.
That's the whole thing with PSYOPs anyways. They create the problem. They control the reaction, and they tell you how to think about this problem. And then they provide the solution they've always wanted to implement all along, and you buy it right up. So, in the case of women's lib, the problem was, women, well, on the face, women are, second-class citizens, and the reaction is, we better demonize men and all this crap, and give women the power that they've deserved and all this stuff. And then the solution was, let's put women in the workplace and liberate them or whatever. Well, we all played right into their hands, basically. It's like they wanted to tax women and put them in the workplace, but they wanted to make it seem like it was women's idea, and it's genius, man. They did the same thing with 9/11, which we're going to get into here next. Oof, man, we're pushing it on time. I think...
Do you want to see that sweet Q&A graphic?
Why don't why don't you go ahead and did you have anything that you wanted to mention? Finish up women's lib? We might save 9/11 for the next episode, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. You know what? There was one thing I wanted to add. I just think that it's possible I might catch heat for this. But I'm not saying that nothing good was accomplished out of that time period. I'm just saying that the people who began this movement had ill intentions. That's all I'm saying. And
absolutely. It's a con.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Well, here's another little interesting bit. Edward Bernays is another he's another I forgot the name of the movement there. It's that deal where
well, he influenced public opinion, public relations.
Well, no,
right?
but it was the Nazi thing where we brought all the paperclip. There we go. So when we brought all the Nazis over after World War II to the American, we smuggled them all in. Bernays was one of these guys, and he ended up coining the term public relations in the United States. He became a very, very powerful force. His line was like, you can't control the mind of one man, but it's super easy to control the mind of a group of men. Group mentality and exploiting that was his specialty, and so that's kind of where advertisement and public relations was born. So his thing with women's lib or women's suffrage, I guess, was genius. He was working on the behalf of advertising for the tobacco companies, and at the time, I guess this is now. I can't exactly remember the date. We could look this up later on. But anyways, the problem at the time was that women weren't smoking nearly as much as men were. So he decided, what kind of a genius idea would it be if we tied the act of smoking cigarettes with women being free, and then all of a sudden I think what they did is there was like a big women's march type deal or something like that, and they gave some of the women up front, cigarettes, so when they marched down the street with their, oh, we're liberated and stuff, they the newspapers took pictures of them and all this stuff, and then they just got burned into the minds of all these women, and so tons of women started smoking because, it's like that Freudian male member kind of thing, like it's a symbol of power, and they felt like they were, on an equal playing field with men as long as they were smoking, and geniusly sold. I mean, this is, we're not pros at this yet, but we're finally starting to get the idea here with this whole PSYOP thing. It's like, it's like the bait and switch thing. If you think it's happening the way it's happening, then you're completely wrong. At least you can start from there and say, okay, well, think backwards kind of critically into what they could possibly be trying to do. And I think now when you start watching the news with these eyes, with new eyes, got a lot of action going on down here. You might start seeing things for what they really are. I don't think anything happens on CNN that doesn't have an alternate agenda. And I think, like the Caitlyn Jenner thing would be a great example of that.
Absolutely. And you'll see different subjects make their way across every news station, and it's just all over the country. You know what I mean? Like the Caitlyn Jenner, that was something that, was a worldwide, excuse me,
well, nationwide, at least.
Nationwide thing. And,
Well, okay, so this is what some we were talking about yesterday as well. I think the best way to identify a PSYOP on television is like, news stories happen every day, and I'm sure that the news outlets actually cover real news to some degree. But when you go into school or when you go into like a church or a big public building or work or whatever, and you hear like that lady that that can go like, oh, did you hear what happened to those kids today? It hurt me personally. I can't believe what the humanity and all this stuff. It's like, oh, that's a PSYOP. The first time I heard ISIS, I walked into work and some chick I was working with goes like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "I'm kind of scared right now." I was like, "What?" She's like, I'm kind of afraid of this ISIS thing." And I'm like, "ISIS? What the hell is that from? Archer, the TV show? Like the cartoon, the secret spy agency Archer works for is called ISIS." And I was like, dude, are they that lazy that they're like just stealing shit straight out of TV shows now?
Yeah, we gotta make an episode about that too, because we watched.
That's gonna be I guess 9/11's getting pushed next, and then we'll do ISIS after that.
We watched a video of a studio that looked like they were filming the beheading of,
I don't know if that's
went
real.
Across the news stations as.
Type in ISIS PSYOP. You'll see, a video, like somebody shot it from behind the scenes of a video production shoot, and it's like a faked, the guy's got the knife on the American soldier's neck, and it's a fake kind of. He's not even like trying to cut him or anything like that, but it looks like he is. I don't know. Anyways, we're blowing through time here. Let's hit the Q&A section here. Let's see that sweet Q&A graphic.
All right.
First question here comes from, first comment here rather, comes from Chris Clanton. He says, creation is evidence of the creator. It takes a lot of faith to believe that the universe created itself from nothing. I'm starting to kind of lean that direction myself there, sir. He says, yeah, there was nothing, and then nothing exploded into everything. Then over billions of years, we evolved from the quote-unquote primordial soup into intelligent life, yet there's no evidence of this in the fossil record.
It's a great point.
It's a great comment.
Thanks
for the comment.
Very
there,
well
Chris.
worded, too.
And I like your name, too, man. Holding it down for the other Chris's out there.
Poppy3D says, the question is always, why would they do this? What must be remembered is that this whole thing started 500 years ago as a direct attack on the Catholic Church's claim on truth. It brought doubt to people on their claims that the Church is truly guided by Christ, the Creator. The only thing that is being proved by this is that the Church actually is what it claims to be.
Poppy3D, if you're watching this, I'd love to see a little bit more of that. Could you please kind of peel that onion back a little further? Because that seems like some interesting stuff. He's saying this whole thing started 500 years ago as a direct attack on the Catholic Church, or their claim on truth. So I want to hear more about that. That seems like some cool stuff there. Let's move on here to the next one. Let's see here. This is from Sunil Rahman. It says, Rahman. There we go. I think that's it. It says NASA is advertising the recruitment of women into the military. How fitting for the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says, as well as maximizing the feminist propaganda angle, this is sick.
Oh, this is awesome. This is so topical.
So
Thank
maybe,
you.
You know, we reported on the women in NASA thing the other day. Maybe we were implicated right in the PSYOP as well. Maybe this is like, celebrating women in NASA is actually like kind of convincing younger women to get involved in the military and NASA.
Well, we're just discussing it. So Jason Mosley says, I promise they pull a ISS accident this year to kill it off so they won't have to fake it anymore because we on their ass. That's so funny, you know? That's so funny.
That's dope, dude. I hope that would be so crazy. If you call that, man, I'm buying you a beer.
Absolutely.
That is really cool.
Six-pack.
Let's see here. Moving on. Let's see here. Sunil Rahman says, just more sickening NASA propaganda pushing Luciferian satanic theology. Yeah, I mean, from what we're learning here, even if you don't believe in a God, you got to believe that there's people that believe in a Satan, right? You know, like there's a lot of crazy secret society, satanic, you know. Seems unnecessary how into we jokingly refer to him here at the studio as goat blood drinkers. You know, anytime you see like Marco Rubio or somebody who's just like a smiling face that looks like he's just propped up by like the establishment, it's like, oh yeah, that guy's been drinking goat blood. Oh,
you know what too? Sunil Rahman, I know we're giving him so much attention, but this is
hey man,
absolutely
you comment
great.
A bunch, you get some, you get the attention.
He's like Red Hot Chili Peppers, and then he quotes that song. I believe it's Californication. Space is made in a Hollywood basement as the lyrics. Yeah. So he says, "Wow, this is classic NASA, CIA, PSYOP stuff. They're laughing at us, and perhaps rightly so." That is so just beautifully worded.
It's public mockery,
Hats off
man.
to you. Yeah, absolutely.
They say it right, and
This
they
guy
got it all in
gets it.
plain daylight, and we don't see it because we're still buying the story that we've been told here.
Yep.
Let's see here. NASA is so fake, says ML Force. Or is that M capital I? I'm not sure. I'm a little far away. Says, I cannot believe I was a space nerd, and now I do not believe a thing they say. Keep going with the show, but add flat Earth in there. Well, we've done so. Ooh, that guy's a month old. My bad. Well, we missed you, but now you're in the show there, sir. We're heading toward the end of the program here, folks. So we just got let's see here, a few more sweet comments to read. I don't want to cut anybody off here. Chris Clanton says the reason the sun and the moon appear to be the same size in the sky is because they are the same size. Oh yeah. So yeah, this is a popular flat Earth idea, is that like the sun isn't a bajillion miles away and the moon is real close. They're actually like 4,000 to 8,000 miles away, depending on who you're listening to. He says, in the globe model, the sun is 400 times bigger in diameter than the moon and 400 times farther away. We're not sure of the distance of the sun and the moon. I've seen numbers from 700 miles to 10,000 miles. Wow. Most think the sun and the moon are about 30 miles in diameter and about 3,000 miles high. Wouldn't that be crazy? I mean, I'll put up this picture or this video here of the somebody made a nice flat Earth model with a little functioning light up sun and moon. I think this thing's dope. I really want to own one of these super bad. Anyways, Rachel, you want to read the last comment here? This one's going to be from right here from Barry White. Hey, welcome back, Barry.
Barry White says they've probably gotten all of the data for the Jason 3 written already. They will use it to back up their claims of climate change. It would be interesting to know who heads all of these agencies that are sponsoring this satellite. So true.
Yeah, no kidding. I think, like, honestly, all this stuff is like, Obama's talking about climate change, so of course we got to launch a fake satellite that's going to go up there and reinforce all the crap he's feeding us here. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching again. It's always a pleasure to put this show on for you. We apologize that the program's been delayed, but we're just happy that Rachel's back and safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're just
send
gonna
her some
hit
well
it
wishes,
super
guys.
hard.
She's still hurting, man. She had an airbag to the chest, so she's still
Oh,
recovering from that. But you're a trooper, man. I got her on the show a day or two earlier than she thought she could get back on there. So,
And
please,
I'm gonna public service announcement. Drive so carefully. I have a lead foot, admittedly, and I probably wouldn't be in the accident if I was driving slower. I could have assessed the situation better. Luckily, it wasn't my fault, but I definitely played a role with my,
yeah, the police officer
naivety.
said the seatbelt saved her life. So no joke, wear a seatbelt. I'm a believer now. I kind of was slacking on that for a minute, but anyways, guys. Send your sweet emails with secret sensitive material to nasafraudcast@gmail.com. Again, that's nasafraudcast@gmail.com. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you like the program, please let us know in the comments. If you disagree with anything we say or agree, let us know. Politely, of course. Be sure to share the program with a friend if you like. And anything else we want to add?
Have Piper do a salute.
All right. You want to salute the viewers? All right, Piper. Salute. Can you salute?
Salute.
Salute.
Piper, salute.
She's like, I'm not your monkey. Piper. She's usually really good at this. Anyways, let's do a handshake. Here, can you shake? She's going to shake with me. There we go. All right.
Salute.
And then I'll get my shake from you. All right, Rachel. Thanks. Thanks much, everybody, for watching, and we'll catch you next time. For Space Race here, I'm Chris.
I'm Rachel.
Good night, everybody. Thanks
Good
for
night.
watching.